Hi, I'm Rebecca Lyons. Welcome to Jesus Speaks in the Book of Mormon and in Dreams. So today we are reading the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, the Complete Gospel of Mary Magdalene by Jehan de Quilin. So we are going to continue our reading, and we're going to once again see a whole new perspective and see Jesus in a whole new light, a whole new way, through the eyes of his most favorite disciple, through the eyes of his most beloved companion, through the eyes and the voice of his wife, Mary Magdalene. So we're starting out chapter 36, verse 1, where we left off yesterday. When Yeshua, or Jesus, had spoken these words, so he just had his Last Supper. I'm going to read you the very last verse from yesterday's 35:25. And Yeshua said to them, "Do you now believe? Behold, the time is coming, yes, and now the time has come, that you will be scattered, each one of you unto his own, and you will leave me all alone, and all alone but one. Yet even now I am not alone, because the Spirit is with me. I have told you these things, that in me you may have peace. In the world you have oppression, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Now arise, my friends, and let us depart this place." When Yeshua, or Jesus, had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over into the Kidron brook, where there was a garden, into which Yeshua and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew this place, for Yeshua often resorted there with his disciples. Judas then, having taken a detachment of his soldiers and officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Yeshua, therefore, knowing all these things that were happening to him, went forth and said to them, "Who are you looking for?" And they answered him, "Yeshua the Nazarene." Judas also, who betrayed him, was standing with them. Yeshua therefore said to them, "I am he." But they did not move. Again, therefore, he asked them, "Who are you looking for?" And they said, "Yeshua the Nazarene." Yeshua answered, "I told you that I am he. If therefore you seek me, let these others go their way." Shimon Kepha, or Simon Peter, therefore, having a sword, drew it and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Yeshua therefore said to Simon Peter, or to Kepha, Shimon Kepha, "Put the sword into its sheath. The cup which the Spirit hath given me, shall I not surely drink it?" So the servant went to go grab Jesus and put him in chains and go take him to be tried before Caiaphas. And so as he went forward to grab Yeshua and to chain him up, Simon Peter got really mad, like, "Don't you dare touch Jesus," and he cut off his right ear. And then Jesus picks up the ear and inhales his ear, and the ear all of a sudden is healed, and the ear is all back on his head. And then Jesus says to Simon Peter, "The cup which the Father has given me, or the cup which the Spirit has given me, shall I not drink it?" Like, this is the bitter cup Father asked me to drink. Should I not do the will of the Father and drink this cup? Meaning, should I not atone and die for all your sins? Should I not suffer for all your sins in the garden, which he already just did? And should I not go to the cross of Calvary and sacrifice my life and my blood for you and for all? Chapter 37, verse 1. So the detachment, the commanding officer, and the officers of the temple seized Yeshua and bound him up and led him first to the house of Annas, for he was the father-in-law to Caiaphas. He was the high priest that year. Now it was Caiaphas who advised the Pharisees that it was expedient that one man should perish for the people. The beloved companion, so Mary Magdalene, followed Yeshua, as did some of the other disciples. Now the beloved companion, Miriam, or Mary, was known to the high priest and entered in with Yeshua into the court of the high priest. But Kepha was standing at the door outside. When she saw Kepha standing outside the door, the beloved companion, Mary, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the woman who kept the door and brought in Kepha. The woman who kept the door said to Kepha, "Are you also one of this man's disciples?" And he said, "I am not." Now the servants and the officers were standing there, having made a fire of coals, for it was cold, for they were warming themselves. Kepha was with them, standing and warming himself. The high priest therefore asked Yeshua about his disciples and about his teachings, and said, Yeshua answered him, "I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues and in the temple where the people always meet. I said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I have said to them. Behold, these know the things which I said." So these know the things which I have said. When he had said this, one of the officers standing by slapped Yeshua on his hand. He slapped his hand, saying, "Do you answer the high priest like that?" Yeshua answered him, "If I have spoken evil, testify the evil. If I have spoken evil, testify the evil. But if well, why do you beat me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Now Simon Peter, was standing and warming himself. They said therefore to Simon Peter, "Are you not also one of his disciples?" Simon Peter denied it and said, "I am not." One of the servants of the high priest, being a relative of him, whose ear Simon Peter had just cut off, said, "Did I not just see you in the garden with him?" So then Simon Peter denied it again, and immediately the rooster crowed. And he, understanding what Yeshua had said earlier, was overcome with grief and remorse, and fled the city and returned unto his own. So right when the rooster crowed, Simon Peter had denied Jesus 3 times, just like Jesus had predicted at the Last Supper. He said, before the rooster crows, like, you're going to deny me 3 times. And that's exactly what just happened. And Simon Peter's like, oh, crap. Jesus told me I would deny him 3 times when the rooster crows, and I did. And he realized what Jesus had said just came true. They led Yeshua, therefore, from Caiaphas into the praetorium. It was early, and they themselves did not enter into that place, that they might not be defiled, but might eat of the Pesach feast, or the feast of the Passover. With them also standing nearby were Miriam, the mother of Yeshua, Yaakov or Jacob, Joseph, and Salome. Miriam, called the Magdala, so that's Mary Magdalene, Jesus' wife, the beloved companion, and the disciple called Levi. They heard and saw all that had occurred, and as others testified the same, then the law says that their testimony is true. Pilate therefore went out to them and said, "What accusations do you bring against this man?" They answered him, "If this man were not an evildoer, we would have delivered him up unto you." Pilate therefore said to them, "Take him yourselves, and judge him according to your own law." Therefore the Pharisees and the priests said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death." Pilate therefore entered again into the praetorium called Yeshua, and said to him, "Are you the king of Israel?" Yeshua answered him, "Do you say this by yourself, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate answered, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests delivered you up to me. What have you done?" Yeshua answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my people would fight for me, that I would not be delivered to the enemy. But now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate therefore said to him, "Are you a king then?" Yeshua answered, "You say that I am a king. For this reason I have been born, and for this reason I have come into the world, that I should testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Then Pilate, groaning, said to him, "What is truth?" When Pilate had said this, he went out again to the Pharisees and said to them, I find no crime in him, but you have a custom that I should release someone to you at the Pesach or at the Passover. Therefore, do you want me to release to you the King of Israel? Then they all shouted again, saying, No, do not release this man, but release Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. So Pilate then took Yeshua and flogged him. The soldiers twisted thorns into a crown and put it on Yeshua's head and dressed him in a purple garment. They kept saying, Hail, King of Israel. They kept slapping him. Then Pilate went out again and said to them, Behold, I bring him out to you, that you may know that I find no basis for a charge against him. Yeshua therefore came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple garment. Pilate said to them, Behold the man. When therefore the chief priests and the officers saw Yeshua, they shouted, saying, Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Pilate said to them, Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no basis for a charge against him. The people answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. When therefore Pilate heard these sayings, he was more afraid. He entered into the praetorium again and said to Yeshua, Where are you from? But Yeshua gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you, and I have the power to crucify you and kill you? Yeshua answered, You would have no power at all against me unless it were given to you from up above. Therefore, he who delivered me to you has greater sin. At this, Pilate was seeking to release Yeshua, but the people cried out, saying, If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar's. Everyone who makes himself a king speaks against Caesar. When Pilate therefore heard these words, he brought Yeshua out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called Gabbatha. Now it was the preparation day of the Pesach or the Passover. At about the 6th hour, he said to the people, Behold your king. They cried out, Away with him! Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Pilate said to them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar.